Olive, talking about your story reminds me of a funny story I read the other day.
You read a story about sneakers and cupcakes?
Not exactly. The story I read is a version of Jack and the Beanstalk.
I know that one. Jack is a boy who climbs this huge beanstalk to a castle in the clouds where a big bad giant lives. Jack steals the giant's goose that lays golden eggs. The giant chases after him and...
That's it. But in the version I read, what's cool is that the narrator is the giant. The giant is telling the story from his own point of view. He's the first-person narrator.
I wonder what the big bad giant would have to say about Jack running all over his castle.
Let's check it out.
Wow, that poor giant.
Well, at least he finally got to tell his story. Let's reread and look for a hint that the giant is a character in his own story. Click on the highlighted words that tell you the giant is a character in his own story. Be sure to look at all the pages. You got it. The giant is talking about his experience with the neighborhood kids and uses the pronoun my twice. Those are big hints that the giant is taking part as a character in the story.
Hold up a sec, guys. I've got a question. We hear a lot about the giant in this story, but not much about Jack. Is that because the giant is the first-person narrator?
Yep. When a story is told from a first-person point of view, the narrator tells the story as he or she sees it. And a first-person narrator, like the giant, can only tell what he knows, his own thoughts and feelings. Click on the sentence that best shows the first-person narrator expressing his thoughts or feelings. Be sure to look at all the pages. Oh yeah, that sentence definitely shows how the giant felt about being teased. He was very upset.
I feel really bad for the giant. He took a lot of abuse.
Who cares?
You're right. The big guy just doesn't get a break.
I think I know why we feel sorry for the giant. When you read a story from a first-person point of view, you're not just finding out what happens. You really get to understand the narrator's thoughts and feelings. Knowing the giant's thoughts and feelings about the events makes it easier to care about him.
Hey, I think I'm getting this.
I'm not sure I am.
Maybe this will help. Let's start with something we learned from the narrator.
Okay. We learned that the giant lives in a castle on a cloud.
Right. The giant lives in a castle on a cloud. And because the giant is the first-person narrator, we get to find out he bought the castle to be far away from the people who hurt his feelings.
But if the narrator were Jack, we wouldn't find anything about the giant's feelings because Jack wouldn't know how the giant felt inside.
Wait, what?
Jack could only tell us his own thoughts and feelings, not the giant's. Remember, when a story has a first-person narrator, you only find out the narrator's thoughts and feelings.
So we learned something about why the giant did something only because the giant is telling us the story, because he is the first-person narrator.
That's what's up. Sometimes first-person narrators explain to the reader why they did something. Here, the giant tells us why he moved to the castle on a cloud. Click on the information that would not be in the story if Jack were the first-person narrator. Nice. The giant loves that goose, but we only know that because he tells us how he feels when Jack steals his pet.
Wow, I really feel for this giant guy.
Well, this version of the story is from the giant's point of view, so we know firsthand the horrible and unfair things that happened to him.
That might be true, but I think the original story of Jack and the Beanstalk tells things just a little differently.
That's probably because the story is told from a third-person point of view. That's when a narrator is someone outside the story. By being on the outside looking in, the narrator is able to reveal the thoughts and feelings of one or more characters.
You know, I actually don't think I ever read the original story.
No problem. Let's read it together. Maybe the third-person narrator will tell us something that we didn't get from the giant's first-person point of view. Check this out. This list tells us a little more about the third-person point of view.
Well, that would explain why the story was way different from the one told from the giant's first-person point of view.
Yeah, the giant told his own story in One Giant Step. The narrator of Jack and the Beanstalk is not even a character in the story.
Is not a character. Yes, and the narrator wouldn't use the pronouns I, me, or my to tell the story. A story is told from the third-person point of view. The narrator isn't a character in the story. It's just a voice. And that voice doesn't talk about itself. So it never uses the words I, me, or my, unless the narrator is quoting exactly what a character says.
Wait just a sec. I think this narrator does use I, me, and my. How about this? This goose will surely save my family forever. I am sure the giant won't miss it, said Jack to himself.
Good point. But remember, the narrator can use I, me, and my when quoting exactly what a character says. Here, the narrator is quoting what Jack says. One clue is the quotation marks.
Got it. In Jack and the Beanstalk, I, me, and my are only used when the narrator is quoting what someone else says or thinks. I'll keep an eye out for those quotation marks.
Let's take another look at that line you found. The goose will surely save my family forever. I am sure the giant won't miss it, said Jack to himself. That line also shows that a third-person narrator knows what more than one character sees, thinks, and feels. It tells us Jack's thoughts about why he was going to steal from the giant.
Right. In third-person point of view, the narrator can tell what more than one character sees, thinks, or feels. But that's not all. The narrator can also give the reader information the characters may not even know.
Like the fact that Jack came from a poor family, struggling to survive? The giant didn't know that.
Yeah, nice one, Olive. No way could the giant have known how poor Jack's family was. You know, we really can get a lot of information from the third-person point of view. It's just not the same as what we learned from the first-person point of view.
Use different voice animations.
You know, I've been thinking about how the third-person point of view can tell us what more than one character sees, thinks, or feels, and information that the characters may not know. If it does that, then third-person point of view can give you more big-picture information than first-person point of view.
Right on, Azul. So let's use our chart to see what we can learn from the third-person narrator in Jack and the Beanstalk.
I've got an event from the story. A beanstalk grows from Jack's cottage up to the clouds.
Nice. Now, what do we learn about the beanstalk growing from the third-person point of view?
Well, if you read the text closely, it says, furious at her son for making such a foolish trade, his mother threw the beans out the window as he slept. Little did she know that these beans were magical. The very next morning, a beanstalk that stretched all the way to the clouds appeared beside the cottage.
Right, and that piece of text tells us that the giant beanstalk grew from the beans that Jack's mother threw out the window.
You know what else I noticed? The narrator is also telling us something the characters don't know. Because it says Jack's mother didn't know the beans were magical. And chances are Jack didn't know either.
Yet another example of the third-person narrator at work.
Help me fill in the chart with another detail from the story. We know from the story that the giant chants, Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. What do we learn about that chant from the third-person narrator? Click on the sentence that tells what we learned from the third-person narrator of Jack and the Beanstalk. Oh yeah, the narrator describes the chant as terrifying and tells how Jack hurries down the beanstalk each time he hears it.
11:30.
It's pretty cool to see the same story told from two different points of view.
Yeah, a lot of events happened in both stories, but they were not
Hurry
told
up.
in quite the same way. Why do you think that is?